That was the day of an ADS salesman back then. The car, the trailer, the CB, a notepad, a lot of phone calls at the gas stations. This was back in the period where we're still trying to convince contractors to switch from clay pipe to plastic.
They would cut off a piece of pipe, they would lay it on the ground, they would take their size 12 work boot and drive it down on the top and say, look, that collapsed, this isn't any good. So we're not interested in using this product because we can use this red clay tile, which has been used for hundreds of years. So those are the barriers that we had to transfer the quality into acceptance and into use.
Would get down in the trench, and while you're down in the trench, you'd actually work with the product they were working with. If you do that and you just show a little bit to the contractor that you were interested in what their business was, you could oftentimes get them to stop their machine. Then you proceed to tell them about the pipe, and you'd pull out the brochure, and oftentimes you could get them to say, I've got another project that's coming up, it's over here. If you would talk to my customer, then you had to find the farmer and understand you got a drainage project coming up, and you'd proceed to take out the sample, show him the pipe, and show him the literature, and kind of get him to at least warm up to it. It was a little bit easier to convince them to try us. And so you'd go backpedaling with the contractor, say, yeah, farmer, whatever, talk to him, and he's okay with using plastic. So I wouldn't necessarily say he only wanted 1,000 feet. And oftentimes, they'd order more than that 1,000 feet.
We had to comply with the established standard at the time, which was very primitive. It was the Soil Conservation Service Standard Code 606. This is the beginning of the evolution of product specifications covering more the end-use application. The objective was to make sure we had a system in place that from one plant to another, there would be uniformity, consistency, and the ability to ship material around the country without having to worry about significant differences in the product. And plants at that time would record the information on a piece of paper, and they do it once an hour, and from that we would track the overall quality of the product. We had to send product out to independent testing laboratories. They would provide us with an evaluation of the product per the applicable standard, and then that's what we would use to go into this soil conservation office and get the product listed as approved for use. And that was really critical to expanding the use and acceptance of the product.
In the transitional year, getting out of clay, getting into plastic. What we would do is literally put 250-foot coils on top of all of the trailers hauling out clay pipe. We'd tie them down and so forth, and we literally give them away. We'd give that product away to the contractor. Well, naturally, at that point in time, when you're just making a totally revolutionary change within the marketplace, that was a big deal, and you needed to give the product away.
But I think the breakthrough for us came when we went to the next level and we started offering a survey. And so if we knew how to go out and lay out tile lines, we just thought that might be a good thing to help convince the guy to use our pipe. It didn't take us too long that the contractors would give us the entire field. While you're doing that and trying to sell truckloads of pipe, you also got some orders that you have to take care of. And so while you're doing that, you're stopping at a gas station, you're at a payphone, you got a contractor that had called into the office and wanted us to return a phone call to them because they wanted to give you their orders direct. Pretty soon, it got to the point where you just couldn't handle all of that workload. So I married the right gal. So she started taking my phone calls, and she would write down my orders. And so here's Deb. She's taking down the information. I'm out there doing the survey, getting the cuts to the contractor, taking them back when the contractor gets back off of one project. He gets home at night, and I'm there to deliver him his cut and fills for this next project he's going to give me the order for. Well, while that's happening, you got another contractor that's calling up, and he's saying, we can't get the truckload of pipe or can't get it in time for this project tomorrow. What are you going to do for me? What can you do? You run down to the plant and pick up the trailer, and you throw the pipe on and say, how about if I get you a few coils to get you by until the truckload gets there? Is that going to work out? Oh, that'll be fine. So here you are till 1 o'clock. You'd be delivering pipe, and you'd come back in, and you're just all excited. You got this guy, he's going to be using your pipe, and you got this guy who got through his problems and got him some fittings that he needed in order to keep the project going for the next day. Customer service was happy. And so I'd call up a contractor, and I'd say, hey, I got a half of a truckload coming your way. You want to take the other half? I never had that other half. Lucy Kniebel, bless her soul, Lucy was the best customer service I could have had. And so Lucy was out there filling my orders that I would get. Sometimes I'd have Deb making phone calls. Lucy was making phone calls. You just had to do whatever it took in order to get the contractor, your customer, satisfied, get on to the next thing.
We didn't have technology, that's for sure. With letters, we typed a letter. First, we sat and took dictation. Then I went back to my desk and I typed it up on letterhead. Then I took it back to the person who it was written for, and they reviewed it, and maybe they didn't like some of what they said, so they'd give it back to you, and then you'd type it all over again. And when it was fine to send out, you put it in an envelope, you put a stamp on it, and it went off to maybe someplace in town and maybe someplace across the country. And you didn't expect a response on that letter for days.
Because there was no computers or wasn't any way to send anything electronically, so everything was handwritten. So you'd get the inventory, all the non-manufactured items, everything was in paper, and we had to go through and audit all that information, and then we would give it to, at that point in time, we had a girl named Lou Vance who was our key punch operator, and she would key in the information that needed to be keyed in, take it down to an accounting firm, they would run it through their computer, and then it would come back in a packet of information that was printed out, but it wasn't anything that you could do anything with other than write numbers off of it. So we had all this information, and then we had to compile into spreadsheets by handwriting them on a spreadsheet and making sure that they added down and across so that we could give them to Nina in that position to type out the report, put in a booklet to do for the management team.
Everybody just seemed to be pulling the weight to cause a sale to happen.
Let's go back to 1973 when the first oil embargo hit. And at that time, it was very difficult to get your hands on resin to make pipe.
The only resin you were going to get was what you bought last year. Well, obviously, we'd only been in business 8 months. We didn't buy anything last year, so we couldn't get any pipe. So Don and I were called into one of the bigger distributors in Hartford, Connecticut. And this is the God's honest truth. We're sitting there, and he said, I need a truckload of pipe, 1 inch or inch and a half, I can't remember. Can't give it to you, I don't have it. Can't make it, can't get the material to make it. We're basically out of the business. He put a 38 on the desk. And he said, if I don't get a truckload of pipe, he didn't go any further than that. I thought the gun told the whole story.
Here you are, you've got a manufacturing plant that makes plastic things, and you can't get the plastic, so what do you do? That was the very beginning of the times that we started really getting hot and heavy into recycling.
It was a very, very difficult time, but we survived it. We got through it.
The 12, the 15s, the 18s were all 2.5-foot sections of pipe at Bell and Spicket. But it was a hassle to put 2.5-foot sections together and get down into the trench. And I mean, it was just a lot of labor. So our engineering group got together, and lo and behold, we've got ourselves 20-foot sticks of 12-inch pipe. Now we could go back out to the contractors and talk about, hey, this is some new product that we have. It's new lengths. It's good. You know, you like the 10-inch. Look how much more you're going to like the 12-inch. And so you're gaining acceptance because we kept bringing them something new as a product that was going to make their job easier. No doubt about it. Plastic pipe made it a whole lot easier than the clay pipe that they were using.
Our process at that time, making polyethylene pipe, was blow molding. It was pressure, you'd blow a low pressure into the molds. It worked okay for 4, 5, 6, and sort of for 8. As you blow across a wider and wider corrugation, the material tends to fold back and it ends up in the valley. The outside looks good, it forms great, but the inside you just can't have all that drag on the inside. Thought, well, we'll just put a hydraulic cylinder on the whole corrugator, and since it's already on wheels, we will take this hydraulic unit and just move the corrugator slowly back and forth. So you'd stretch the parison, and then you'd move it back and allow the parison to kind of collapse. And by doing that, why, we could get the material into the corrugation and not so much in the valley. And it worked.
Within a 3-year period, there wasn't any ditching contractor that we were dealing with at the time that wanted to work with the old clay drain tile.
I remember when we went to the Ohio Farm Science Review, clay companies still had booths, and they would have a stuffed rat gnawing on a piece of plastic, saying that this is the reason why you don't want to buy plastic pipe. I mean, come on, what do you got? What do you got? You got a rat? I mean, you know, that was fairly easy to compete against.
You know, somehow or another, because we had those 20-footers that of 12 and 15s and 18s, it appealed to some of the other markets that the contractors were working with, and that was the public works. That product went in as culverts. It turned out with another success. And then we started calling on public works departments. We started calling on the county maintenance yards.
It's a good thing Hancor had that mindset, and you know, obviously ADS is the same thing. Had the same mindset, keep moving forward. You know, small diameter, dual wall. All of a sudden, you got big diameter, dual wall. So that made it interesting as a sales rep.
It was just one thing after another. ADS seemed to step up to the challenge of bringing us a new product, bringing us a new market that we could sell these products into, and just continued to expand our scope. The agriculture market was dropping like a lead brick, and we were challenged on the sales side to find opportunities for our pipe.
You know, the ag economy was still struggling, but the thought was we provide systems to remove excess water in agricultural fields to enhance crop performance. At the same time, if you have a drought, why couldn't you put water back into these lines and subsurface irrigate the crops to improve crop yield? And so we came up with this program or technique called IrriDrain. You were going to irrigate if it was needed or drain if there was too much water.
IrriDrain gave us an opportunity for ADS to be a leader in the agriculture drainage market that we had never had before.
And we had a field day, a farm day up in Michigan, up in the Thumb. Kemp was the contractor, and he was demonstrating putting in pipe, and somehow he got me to go up on that ditcher with him.